everyone, welcome back to The Spot, the show for teens by teens. We will continue the episode talk about teen and religion, but this segment will be about why don't teens have a spiritual life. Again, we have our special guest, Pastor Eddie. He's from CCC Christian Community Church. But I would like to ask you a question. Have you witnessed this and do you think it's true?
Yes, I have witnessed this somehow. You know, when you look at teens today and where they at spiritually, it seems like they don't really think there's an afterlife. And so teens just live to the truth they believe in today. You know, like I told someone the other day, there's different types of truth. There's relative truth, what you see at hand, and there's truth that you see. They call it pragmatic truth, and the one that you see, like if it's raining outside and somebody else go outside and they say, well, yeah, it is raining outside. And then there's absolute truth. Absolute truth meaning that we need oxygen to breathe. Absolute truth is the sun is rotating around the earth. Those are absolute truth. And so sometimes people need to understand that religion has that absolute truth. It's not relative truth, if you believe it or not. It's just absolute truth that you're going to die one day and then you have to stand before God.
I get it.
All right, so based on what you were saying, you said that if having a spiritual life is good. So my question to you is that, what are the benefits of having a spiritual life?
Benefits for me, when I was a teenager, I came to Christ at the age of 16, and I won't say what year. Before that, you know, the benefits it gave me moral values. It gave me a sense, okay, you know, everybody's important. Number two, it gave me a sense of believing in myself. It gave me a higher self-esteem, knowing that I had God behind me. And so my grades before Christ was like the average. And then when I gave my life to Christ, my grades went up to almost 3.4. And so it made me realize that, hey, you know, you're smart, you know, you can do this. And plus the Bible says, you know, if you study the Bible, you'll be smarter than your teachers. And so when I read that verse, I said, you know what, I'm going to try this and practice this and see if this will come into play. And sure enough, it came into play. Being with Christ will change your life and change your mindset.
I understand, because at the age of 15, I love church.
Yeah.
I believe that, so based on what you were saying, I believe that having a spiritual life is good, because before you start working, you should pray, because it helps you it gave you strength to do your work better. Because you said before you started giving your life to God, you had this, and now your average GPA was like 3 point something. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start praying before I start taking the test, so I can do better with my test.
Yeah, prayer don't only help, man. You got to study too. I'm just finishing up my degree right now, and so it takes a lot of study too. So you got to put in the work.
Since you studied with youth, like your pastor, you studied with youth. Is it true that they're saying that they don't really need it to a spiritual life? Yeah,
I've seen some teens say, well, they don't need church, they don't need God in their life. But they, you know, like someone was saying earlier, you know, it builds moral and it gives you value. You know, one of the things about religion, it gives you relationship. It improve your relationship with God. It improve your relationship with people. And so now you tend to see people with a value that they're important. And I tell people, don't burn your bridges, because that same person you put down in high school may be your boss 20 years from now. Or that same person you put down in high school may be the one that give you the job that you need 20 years from now. So always treat people with importance and value. So that's what religion does to you. And relationship with Christ, it tells us to love people better than we love ourselves. I mean, that's hard to do. When you're trying to love people and they don't like you, you know, and so it helps you with that. It helps you building relationship. It helps you have better morals. And then my household changed. You know, when I started giving my life to Christ, man, my relationship between my brothers changed. My relationship between my parents changed. And I really value my parents. Before Christ, you could care less. But because of Christ in the Bible and what it says, it helped me out. And because of that, I have a good relationship with my parents and a good relationship with my brothers.
Yeah, because it showed, research shows that most kids come from non-religious homes. So it's they're not born that path. They're not in that path of having God.
Yeah, and you know, it's like that sometimes, but sometimes we as a church got to do a better job in presenting that. Like I just told y'all just earlier, you know, I came to church for two things, not for God. I came to church for food and females. You know, for females that might be fellas and food, but I came to church for two things, and when I started to come to church, that was my priority. But then all of a sudden, when I started hearing the word and God started working in my heart, then it became a friendship. It was not a religion, it was a relationship. So that's the difference between religion. You know, sometimes you do the act of religion, but then there's supposed to be the relationship between you and God. So that's why I like it.
At school, you know, the science teaches about the evolution, which is that they tell you where life came from, where other things came from. What do you think about, what effect do you think this have on the teens, on our youth, our generation today?
It shows, sometimes it gives the teens no value, that you just popped up because a meteor hit the earth and then everything came together.
Up.
Yeah, and so when you look at a car, does the car have a maker, or did it somehow came together by itself?
It has a maker.
It has a maker. So suppose I take my watch and break it in 1,000 pieces. You're telling me in 10 million years it's going to come back together by itself?
Like, no.
No. And so there is an intelligent design. There is a maker. And then when you look at the earth and you look at the moon, have you ever tried to draw a perfect circle?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. It is.
hard.
But we have perfect circles in the universe called worlds and stars. The sun, Mars, Pluto. So how does a perfect circle show up
Just
like
make
that?
itself. Yeah.
It cannot make itself. So there is an intelligent design. Now, when you start off with intelligent design, you realize, okay, there's intelligent design. How did that came about?
Yeah.
And if you study anatomy, you realize, man, your body work in a unique, different way. Your eyes, the way it focus, the way you think neurologically with your brain, the way your organs working together, and how we procreate life with man and woman. You be like, whoa. You know, there is something out there, and it's hard to believe. It's still an evolution theory. When I was in high school, they still called it evolution theory. Now they removed the
Yeah.
theory and call it evolution. But it's still a theory because nobody can prove. They're still looking for the missing link between ape and man. They haven't found it yet.
Yeah, I witnessed a lot of arguments in my class because I'm in high school, so like kids will sit there and argue like the science teacher would be like, oh, you guys came from apes, you guys are born, and like they'll show videos of like finding skulls and fossils and say we came from ape, but there's like kids like, no, that's not true. Somebody had to make us, and they're like, if God created you, who created God? So that's like the biggest argument in class, like the whole day.
And that's the thing where, you know, one thing the Bible says, God said, my thoughts are bigger than your thoughts. My ways are bigger than your ways. And the thing is, we live in time. We're finite beings. We only could believe between the time we were born and the time we die, or when earth was, but God is beyond time. It's hard for us to believe that because we live in time. How
Yeah.
can finite believe in infinity? And you have to, sometimes it's weird. So I think we're going to be blown away after we stand before God and realize, oh, that what he meant. But sometimes that's why it takes faith. That's why it's called faith. Because if God were to explain everything to you, you wouldn't need no faith to believe in it. So you need faith sometimes because it answers, though. Sometimes it's put those questions you have in your life on the shelf for now and say, God, I don't know what this means. I don't know where you came from. But, you know, one thing I do know, you are good because you created me.
Okay.
What consequences do you feel like teens will face if they don't have a spiritual life?
Well, first, let's talk about on earth. It's going to be hard because you self-esteem. You don't have really a value to live for. You don't see value in people. And so that's the consequences. And then you don't really rely on relationships. You don't realize that relationships are important. Like I tell my friends when I was in high school, you know, I grew up in the area where Zopound, Sap Boys. I grew up in Little Haiti. You know, I saw friends. We was having funerals every month. One month we had funeral every week. So I see these friends and I seen some going to jail. And then you realize, okay, you know, you realize relationship is important in your life. And these guys, when they're in jail, guess who's not visiting them? Guess who's not calling them? The same boy, the same guy, the same girl they was on the corner with. And guess who is visiting them? Their family and the religious leaders they call. And so I realized, you know, religion, what it does, it gives you a relationship with people. It shows you the value of people. And you realize we all connected. We all made in the image of God. So that's what it does. It brings a value of people, and people want to feel loved. I mean, what person don't want to feel loved? And people need to see that love is powerful, love is important, but we got to understand we get that love from God. He gave that to us so we could pass it on to others. So I think that's the main value, is knowing God is love and giving it to others.
You said that spiritual life connect people together. They bring people together as a family. So if I come to your church, will you be like a father to me?
Yeah,
As a
we'll be
pastor?
family, man. We'll be family. You bring the grill, I bring the bun. You bring the food, I bring the drink. That's the atmosphere we have at our church, Community Christian Church. We try to make people feel like they're family. We make sure, we're not trying to judge them as a visitor, but just make sure they feel at ease, hugging people, loving people. What we mastered is we tried to be there the best time of people's life and the worst time. So we have a team now that's called Care Team, We Care. And when somebody family member dies, we got a team that just go visit them, even at the hospital when the body of the deceased is still there. We go visit them. We help them out in funerals because we realize that's what they need. This is where family sticks together in the worst time, in the worst moments of people's life.
I'm happy to hear all of those from you. But the other thing is that not only evolution keep the kids out of church, out of having the spiritual life. What are other things do you think the kids having the kids having from being from having a spiritual life? What are other things?
What are the temptations? Well,
Yes, sir.
for me, when I was in high school, I think it's the same. I think it's sex. I think it's
Yeah.
relationship.
Party.
I think it's party. And you got all this being thrown at you, man. I mean, y'all have it worse than us because we didn't have
Oh, yeah.
internet.
Our generation is
And we
worse.
didn't have iPad. We didn't have telephones with screens. And so you have all these things that's coming at you. But we serve a bigger God. I mean, there's a bigger God out there that's more powerful. And people and kids, they get so tempted with other things. But what they're looking for now is something with power and something that have value and something that means bigger than themselves, that have meaning. And so I think by the church helping out, like what we do, we go help out the homeless, giving value and stuff like that. I think that'll attract teens to say, hey, at least we're doing something now for other people, for the community. And it makes you feel good because you're trying to help somebody else. But you have a lot of temptation out there. And what kept me going, if you want to come to church, come to my church. We'll start off with food and female or food and fellas. And hopefully you come to know Jesus.
What actually motivated me to come to church is that I like when young pastors are preaching because they connect to me in a better way, and I actually love the praise and worship team. That's my favorite part right here.
Oh,
The
yes.
praise and worship team.
Yes.
Before you were saying that you grew up in Little Haiti.
Yeah.
You grew up where there was killing almost every week in a month. So as a young man who was growing up, what did you do? What did you do to do not get in trouble, to do not get killed as the other people was getting killed? What did you do?
Well, the first thing I had first was my daddy, and he was Haitian, and he had a belt. They call it Sentiwon. All right, so he had 3 sons at that time. We have a 4th brother that came later on, but he disciplined us. And at first I didn't like it, but now I realized when I looked at all the young men that was dying around us, I was like, you know what? He saw what was coming in. So I had a dad that knew how to discipline me, number 1. Number 2, what helped me out as a young man is just consequences. When I started seeing my other friends going to jail and dying, I said, you know what? I don't want to be in that predicament. And so I just tried to go to school, play football, and then when the church came in my life, then I put church, football, and school together, and that just grew on me. And so it was just putting my time somewhere else instead of just only friends and school, but putting my time in going to church.
I like the way you were thinking as a young man, and even me too. I do that when I see people are dying every single day, young kids like my age dying or going to jail. That's what motivates me to do better in my life, to become someone better with positive vibes in me. Yeah. And I really love that.
Yeah. Just learn from other people. I told people stupid people don't learn from their mistake. Smart people do learn from their mistakes. Wise people look at everybody else's mistakes and don't get in it.
Thank you for everything that we shared. We'll be back after the break.